Hey guys, so today we're out at the range with one of my favorite Cold War era rifles with a twist. This you've probably seen before. It is a vz.58. This would have been a rifle that was developed in the 50s and 60s for the Czech military. And the original, of course, chambered the 7.62 by 39. Where this one deviates from that is this one is actually in 5.56 or 223. These can be very hard to find, but they do exist. If you do get one, you'll be even more lucky to find spare magazines because they simply don't exist. Now, I will say there are magazine conversion kits. I don't know how well they work, but there is one that's made, I believe, in Israel that you can put in and use standard AR-15 aluminum magazines, standard USGI magazines. Some of the other polymer mags and stuff like that won't work with it apparently, but there is a magazine adapter. Perhaps I'll pick one up eventually and put it on the gun. I just like this gun because it's a little bit of an oddity. It's not all that common, and yeah, I like small arms. So this one is actually made by CSA, or Czech Small Arms. It's imported by Czech Point, and it's an extremely high quality gun, and it has the collapsible stock on it, has a sling with it, and I have it tied off around the front sight block, but I'm not going to go into great detail about the vz.58. We've talked about this rifle previously. I just wanted to show you guys a rather rare version of it that's available here on the US market. It'll come with two magazines. One of them is translucent and the other one's just black. You can't see through it at all. They hold 30 rounds. They are proprietary to the gun. As far as I know, I haven't seen anybody like Fab Defense manufacturing 5.56 magazines like they do 7.62 by 39 magazines for this rifle when it's chambered in 7.62 by 39. All the controls are exactly the same as any other vz.58. The only real difference is the magazine, the bolt, and the caliber that it shoots, and the barrel, of course. So we'll take it apart and show you guys what the inside looks like, but you'll also notice that it has an accessory rail on the left-hand side of the receiver. And here we have a RS Regulate quick detach mount. You just have a little lever there that you pop off and you can slide your optic off, slide your optic back on, lock it in place, and it will return to 0. And on top of that, we have an aim point T1, I believe it is, or an H1. It's one of my older aim points. So you can put a red dot sight on there. You can quickly take it off and put it back on. So when you're doing the cleaning process. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of shooting with it. Today we're going to do some shooting with the American Eagle. This is from Federal. And we'd like to thank our friends over at Federal for supplying the ammunition to the channel here free of charge. If you would like to pick some ammunition up from Federal or any other manufacturer for that matter, please swing by and check out 2awarehouse.com. They're good folks over there and we like to support them as well. All right, so let's go ahead and load it up. Now this gun is definitely made for a right-handed shooter. It's a rock and lock, so you'll put the toe of the magazine in first, rock it back, and it'll lock into place. Now, why do I say it's a right-handed shooter's rifle? Well, the safety lever is only on the right side of the receiver, and this one only goes to safe, which is this position, and fire, which is that position. You'll know that the weapon's on safe when you go to put your finger on the trigger. That safety will butt up against your finger, and you'll know the safety's on when you flip it forward. That won't happen. You have easy access to the trigger. On the other side, and also the charging handle, I should say, is right here. But as you know from running AKs, you can run them from either side. And this sometimes actually favors left-handed shooters. But the magazine release is over here. Let me swing it around here really quick. And the mag release is right there in front of the trigger. And it's kind of protected by the trigger guard from easy access from the other side. So you're not going to easily access it from the right-hand side of the gun. You're only going to be able to access it from the left-hand side of the gun. So that kind of makes it favor the right-handed shooter. All right, so loading the rifle up, you just simply pull the bolt to the rear and release it. And look how big and open it is. I love this about the design of the vz.58. I mean, it's kind of like the Beretta 92. You can see right into the gun. There's not a whole lot getting in the way. You don't have a tiny ejection port that you have to get a spent case through or clear a malfunction through. It's really, really interesting how the Czechs designed this particular rifle. We have a challenge steel target down at 100 yards that we're going to shoot at here really quick and show you that the recoil impulse on this thing is next to nothing. All right, and last shot, the bolt does lock open. To remove the magazine, all you do is reach up with your thumb, hit the magazine release, and rock that magazine forward, and it comes right out. Now this is one of the black mags that comes in the box. So you get one of each, at least I did when I got this one. Rock and lock it in there, and then you can do the AK roll if you want to. You'll notice the charging handle is at a slight upward angle. So you just reach back, release that bolt, and she goes right home. Now it does have a stripper clip guide in the top of the bolt carrier, which I don't know what stripper clip it uses. I've never even tried to use a US stripper clip to see, or M16 stripper clip to see if it works. All right. I'm getting clumsy here. You know what? I'm just going to shoot off the bag like this. Woo, she's getting warm. Keep your hands on the polymer. Let's take a look inside the vz.58 and see what makes it tick. First, we're going to want to make sure that the weapon is clear and safe. So we do not have a magazine in the gun. I'm going to pull the bolt to the rear and make sure that the chamber is empty. Very easy to do with this big open top design. Let the bolt go home, point the gun in a safe direction, put it on fire, and then pull the trigger to release the striker spring pressure. It'll make things much easier. Now we're going to take the optic off because it has to be taken off the rifle to get into the innards of the gun. So I'm going to flip the lever up, slide the RS Regulate mount off, and now we can enter the action of the vz.58. Start off by pushing on the left-hand side of the gun. There's a pin that will go out towards the right. Pull that pin across. Don't yank on it too hard. It is captive. If you yank on it too hard, you can break it. Now, once you have that pin out, all you have to do is grab around the buttstock, put your thumb on the back of the top cover, slightly push forward and lift up, and it will come out of its perch. Now, this thing can be a little tricky on the disassembly and reassembly, so practice it if you pick one of these things up. You can struggle with it a little bit. It's kind of like a 1911. You'll learn tricks here and there on how to get it apart and how to get it back together again. When you take the top cover off, you'll see that there's two springs that are inside the top cover. The bottom spring that I'm moving with my thumb, that's your striker spring. The top spring that's kind of kinked up, that is your recoil spring, and it looks just like, you know, an AK recoil spring. Now we're going to take the bolt carrier and move it all the way rearward in this big open expanse of a receiver. Move it all the way to the rear, lift up on the front of the bolt carrier, and the bolt will come and carrier will come right out of the rifle. We can take it a step further. There's another push pin up here just underneath the front or rear sight, my bad. Push that pin across, pull up the handguard and take it off, and now you can access your gas piston, which has its own little spring, okay? I'm gonna put that back in there. So it's very, very easy to disassemble and reassemble without tools. Now I have my hands all black from handling the gas piston. All right, the wife loves it when I wipe the stuff on my jeans. She gets so mad at me. All right, anyway, so let's take a look at this locking system. So we know that the rifle is a short stroke piston system, much like an SKS. And let's take a look at how this bolt system works. This is really cool. So that, what you saw just fall out there is the striker. This is your striker right here. And that spring rides inside of the striker assembly. So this is your bolt and carrier assembly. And look how, when the bolt moves, watch this little dropping piece that unlocks and locks. See how that works? It's so simple. It's really, really cool. All right, so how do you take it apart? Well, pull your striker assembly to the rear. If you want to take the striker assembly out, you can. You just pull it to its rearmost position, turn it slightly. There's a little notch in there you have to engage. Turn it slightly and it'll pull out, okay? And then you can put it back together by simply putting it in there, looking for that little notch, and rotate it back to its proper position. Just make sure all these little teeth are pointing upwards if you hold the bolt inverted. But I can take the bolt and locking piece out very easily. And it reminds me of a Beretta and its locking piece. Doesn't it look similar to you guys? All right, so that's really it. That's all you have to do to field strip the gun. And yeah, some folks say that this is an AK variant, and that's simply not true. There's no parts commonality between the vz.58 and the AK-47 or the AKM. The only thing that they share in common is calibers. Both are offered in 5.56 or 7.62 by 39. All right, so to put it back together again, I'm just going to put the locking piece and the bolt back together. And again, no tools required, which is really nice. Put the bolt and locking piece together, set the bolt inside the carrier. Just kind of wiggle it around a little bit. It'll move forward. You can push your striker assembly forward, and that'll lock everything together, okay? And this is where it gets into learning the ins and outs of the gun. So you have relief cuts in the receiver here that you have to line up with the bolt carrier before you can get the bolt carrier group back into the rifle. So you're just going to kind of move it around, and I found that if you hold the nose of the gun down a little bit, that bolt will drop forward, and it'll go together much easier. I've seen people, myself included, struggle with the muzzle up. If you just point that barrel down a little bit, it'll drop right together. Now look what happened. See how the striker is in the cocked position because it engaged the sear, but when I pull the trigger, that striker goes home. So now you see how that mechanical system works. All right, let's go ahead and put the top cover back on the gun. And this is another one of those areas where it takes a little bit of practice because you have little tabs on either side of the dust cover that you have to get inside the receiver. And if you don't get them inside the receiver, you'll struggle with them and try to force the top cover down. If it doesn't go together easily, don't force it, okay? So now you got to line up the two recoil springs, or the two springs. One's a recoil spring and one's a striker spring inside the receiver. And I'm making it more difficult than it looks, or more difficult than it really is, because I'm trying to do it so you guys can see what I'm doing. And so now you want to line up those little tabs on the top cover. Make sure they pop down inside the receiver. And when they do, you just push forward and the top cover will pop back into position. Push your pin across, and now the receiver and bolt group is back together. Putting your top cover on, there's little ears on the gas block on the front, and you'll see the tabs on the top handguard, how they kind of slide in there and engage and push down. Make sure your pinhole lines up, push your captive pin across, and now the rifle is back together. Now, I'm using a red dot sight on the rifle, but it does have iron sights that are very much like the AK style sight. All of your elevation and windage adjustments are done to the front sight. The rear sight just has markings once the rifle's zeroed out to 800 meters. And then you have a combat zero option as well. So if you know how to zero an AK, you'll know how to zero the vz.58 if you choose to use it with iron sights. Since it has a mount, I like putting a red dot on it. So I just love how buttery smooth the whole action is of the gun. It just feels like everything is perfectly fit together. The rifle does have a Lothar Walther barrel in it, which is a good barrel. And again, it's imported by Czech Point. And let's see if we can, safety is off. Let's go ahead and put it on. And we'll just do a little bit of shooting here from the kneeling position at 100 yards and see if my zero is okay, because I did have to tighten down that RS regulate mount. I haven't re-zeroed it. Oops. Yeah, I got too hasty. All right, so you'll notice the ejection pattern of the rifle. It's kind of up and out. And of course it locks open on the last round fired. Drop the magazine out. There's no bolt release other than the AK style bolt release. And she's ready to shoot again. Dang it. I actually think I need to put some windage into this red dot sight. Yeah, I'm having a favor left just a little bit. I can see the group developing slightly to the right on the challenge target. Yep, if I aim center, I kind of go off the edge. Pop the red dot sight off here really quick. Let's just see how close we are to being on, because I don't see any sight adjustments. Maybe I do. I don't see any sight adjustments made to the gun. I don't think I've ever actually zeroed the irons on this. Let's just see if we can get some hits. Huh. Oops. I'm aiming at his face and hitting about center mass. So it's a little high. I'm sorry, a little low, I should say. There we go. So you can see how the gun ejects, kind of throws it up and over, and the bolt locks to the rear. It's really an elegant rifle. Very, very neat. Tons of fun to shoot. We get an awful lot of questions about what bag I'm using when I'm shooting off arrest, and it is a bag made by Coltech. And if you guys want to check out their website, there you go. I finally remembered to mention it. I'm sorry, guys, over at Coltech. I get a lot of questions about that. So anyway, another interesting fact about the vz.58 is that it has a different thread pitch than your standard AK. The vz.58 has a 14x1 right-hand thread. Of course, the Russians used a 14x1 left-hand thread. It's almost like the Czechs were just constantly giving the middle finger to the Russians at every level. You're gonna make it left, I'm gonna make it right. It's just kind of funny. But there are thread adapters out there if you want to change the thread pitch to something a little bit more user-friendly. I think K&S makes a thread adapter. So with that being said, if you guys ever find one of these in the wild available for sale, and you like kind of oddballs, it'd be something to pick up. I don't know what they go for currently. I'm guessing they're probably over $1,000 at this point, maybe closer to 1,200 bucks. I haven't looked on Gun Broker in a while, but that's where you're gonna find guns like this. They may still import them, I don't know. A lot of people have listed them in stock previously, like years ago, but now they all say out of stock. And that's also true of the magazines. So if I ever get a Magwell adapter, maybe this rifle will make another cameo in the future. Guys, if you'd like to support us here at the Military Arms Channel, the best way to do that is to become a Patreon supporter. We don't take money from the gun companies. We're supported by you, our audience, so we can share our actual experiences with the firearms that we shoot here on the channel and not have to water anything down for fear of biting the hand that feeds us. We're responsible to you and you only. Link down below. Also, please swing by and check out coppercustom.com. Thanks for almost 12 years of support. We'll get there here very soon. It's almost 2020, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Safety lever is a little bit awkward for sure.